Well, the 2010s are over, so I'm going to go over the best, the worst, and the most underrated movies of the year. But here's how I'm going to do it. I am not going to... Oh, hi, Bella. That is my cat, by the way. I think she'll be joining us today. Bella. Bella. Say hi to the audience. Bella? Okay. I'm going to go over so how I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through every year from this decade to 2010 through 2019, and today I'm going to do the worst and the most underrated. So, let's start off with 2010. Worst movies of 2010 are probably one of the worst movies of all time, The Last Airbender and Birdemic Shock and Terror. I'm going to first talk about The Last Airbender because I really hate this movie. So, I'm going to come off right, and I'm going to say M. Night Shyamalan is not to be blamed for this movie. It's really the people that chose him because he's just never been a part of this genre before. The summer blockbuster action movie. They should have gave it to someone like Joe Johnston or Martin Campbell. But no, it's just... M. Night is not good at making action movies. He is good at just making these psychological thrillers that are very mind-bending and very philosophical, like Unbreakable. It's not a typical superhero movie that you would expect. It's a very deep family trauma, and yeah, that's why he's terrible at this movie. That's why the action is like has no like it's like it's not even like choreography. It's just like it's almost like you're playing one of those games where you're like it's like a game of chess or something. It's like this is not action.
Okay, everybody can help us now.
Say one good thing about this movie. It is probably the costume designs on the sets. Those are the only best part, and maybe the visual effects at times, but they'll probably get outdated. And the sad thing is, it's got Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall. So if you don't know Kathleen Kennedy, she is right now the president of at Lucasfilm, but people hate her right now for Star Wars. And Frank Marshall, who has been the executive producer for the Indiana Jones franchise, the Jurassic Park franchise, and the Jason Bourne franchise. And it's just sad that their names are in this movie because when they've produced some really great movies before, and this is terrible. And I'm just sad it's not getting another chance at film because I think like there's other great like directors out there that can make it better. You know, if like a movie that failed before, like Dune, is now getting like a remake, a better shot at movies, then why can't Avatar? So let's move on to the next worst movie, which is probably one of the worst movies of all time, Birdemic Shock and Terror.
Let's get out of here. I think they're eagles. What's going on?
This is Birdemic.
Worried about those black birds. They're not the dangerous animal. It's the human species that's the dangerous, menacing, and terrifying animal.
Oh, sorry, don't blame my bloody nose. This movie's just so bad, my nose started to bleed. But yes, Birdemic, oh my god. It is a terrible homage to Alfred Hitchcock. For a guy who seems like a fan of Alfred Hitchcock, he fails. I mean, like, the birds just show up. Like, in the original Birds 1963 movie, or whatever the year that came out, there was actually build up to the birds. You know, you can, like, how one bird, like, just like hits Tippi Hedrum's when she's on the boat, or when, like, there's a bunch of, like, a bird hits a door, and a bird, like, and there's a bunch of birds on, like, the cable wires. I mean, like, and then they just show up, and, like, it's like, it is so bad, and it's like, it is, I think, if I would say, like, people say this is, like, the best, worst, like, terrible, so bad it's good movie, I think it's pretty overrated, just because I think it's just so boring at first. It's like, it's a romantic thriller, because, okay, I'll agree with what the director says. It is a romantic thriller. It just, oh my god, the opening, it's just so long. It's just a bunch of car crashes. Like, the acting, just from Rod and Natalie and everyone in this movie, the acting sucks, and the cinematography sucks. But, just, my god, here's a sample of the acting in this movie.
Woohoo! What's with all the noise?
Caught the big fish.
Yeah? How big was the sale?
$1 million.
Awesome, man!
Effects are some of the worst effects I've ever seen in a very low budget movie. I mean, my god, they look so bad. And if you didn't notice this thing, since he loves Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, or maybe he is a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, he actually adds Tippi Hedrum to the cast at the end of the credits. But here's how it is, how she's in the movie, is that there's a scene where, when they're in the motel, and there's a movie playing where she was in called Jack and Jill, I think it was called, or was it Julie and Jack, I don't know. And so they thought that they can add her in the movie just because she was kind of there in a way, but just through another movie. But that's not really how you do it, but, I mean, I think he's just paying tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, but, I mean, he does make a cameo, but it isn't like how Alfred Hitchcock made it, the cameo in The Birds, but still. This is just a really bad movie with just, like, terrible sound design, and, like, yes, I mean, how could I not talk about this movie with the first line of dialogue in this movie?
Hi.
And the clapping scene, which is the worst edited scene probably ever edited. Yeah, woo! Yeah, woo! Ah, yeah! Yeah, woo! Yeah! And you think Rod would be... The only positives that I have is that when the second half comes, it's kind of entertaining, and the makeup was actually pretty good, I'd say. But, so now let's go on to the underrated movies of the year. And so, for the most underrated movies of 2010, it's going to be Fred the Movie, and... my god, I hope people don't think I'm crazy for saying this. The Nutcracker in 3D, or The Untold Story. I really rather do a review of these movies another time, but if I would just say one thing, I kind of like them just because they're all weird and quirky, and it's just like, Fred and the Nutcracker, they're just so bizarre movies, and that's why I really like them. So yeah, I don't think there should be that bad. I don't think they're... I mean, the only the similarities is that they both have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. I think maybe Fred does have a little higher something. But I think I like these movies, and I don't know, hate me on that or call me crazy, but alright, on to the worsts of 2011. Now for the worst movie of 2011, I only have one bad movie, and that is Transformers: Dark of the Moon. The third Transformers.
I'm Wang. Deep Wang. Deep Wang. You're not getting it. Deep throat. Watergate? Talking cold to you! Damn it! Watch and listen.
So I don't hate all the Transformers movies. The first one's fine. I like the last three. Age of Extinction, The Last Night were guilty pleasures. Bumblebee was fine. I think it is a good kickstart to their cinematic universe that Paramount's trying to make with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe and Transformers. I don't know. Make that your... Is that like your pilot to your cinematic universe? I don't know. But I really hate Revenge of the Sith and Dark of the Moon. But Dark of the Moon took me forever to finish. It's just such a long movie in my opinion. I mean, a lot of people complain about Age of Extinction's long. I don't think the movie is really that long in my opinion, but I just did not I just hate sitting through this movie until like a friend came over my house and we watched the entire thing. And the humor is just terrible. It's just terrible. I'm not going to talk that much about it, but it's just a terrible sequel in my opinion. I think it's one of the worst out of the franchise. And if I would say I like that Leonard Nimoy's in it, and like that he's back from after, because I think he, after being in the Transformers movie from like '86, I think. But there you go. That's my. But yeah, Dark of the Moon, I don't want to go too deep into. So, underrated movie of 2011. Bella, are you leaving me? Are you going to come back inside? Bella, what are you doing? Oh. Bella, where are you going? Okay, well, Bella's not joining us today. The underrated movie of 2011 is Thor. I don't care for the Dutch angles, Kat Dennings, but I really like this movie. The worst movie of 2012 is Home Alone Holiday Heist. I'm just putting it there as the worst because stop making Home Alone sequels. They're just very unnecessary. And Disney, I don't care if this new Home Alone reboot has the chubby kid from Jojo Rabbit and Aaron from The Office. No more Home Alone! I kind of actually stopped bleeding somehow. So now, I'm going to go to underrated movies of 2012. And I got it for underrated, I'm going to go with Three Stooges and Chronicle. I'm not the biggest Three Stooges guy, but I kind of thought it was very funny just having them modern day. And Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, I think that's her name, as a villain was funny. Chronicle, I thought that was a really good science fiction superhero found footage film. And I'm sad we're not getting any more sequels because of Max Landis' script was too dark, and wherever that writer who wrote the script for Chronicle 2 ever, because Chronicle 2 is never happening. And so there you go. That's 2012. Now on to the worst of 2013. I had a tough time choosing the worst of 2013 because there's three that I really hate. But I'm going to let Thor: The Dark World off because I really hate this movie. I dislike. That's like probably one of the worst Marvel movies out of the MCU. So now for the worst of 2013, these two movies I definitely recommend. Riff Tracks does like a commentary joke about them, basically Riff Tracks is a comedic group where they basically do commentary on So Bad They're Good movies, but I really wish they do these movies in the future. So, Sage Paints the Sky and A Talking Cat. So, Sage Paints the Sky, it is basically an American girl movie. I'll let the trailer explain.
Can't wait to see her.
Her first day of school.
You know Dylan, right? Oh, yeah.
Has gone from bad to worse.
Due to budget cuts, we will not be having art class this year.
What?
Artists never go down without a fight or at least a protest.
I think we should do something about it. The idea for the protest is a day of beige. The world's without art. Well, I look terrible in beige.
Now.
So you can kind of guess, it is a underdog coming-of-age movie about a girl trying to save the art program, but... So why do I really hate it? Or dislike it, or think it's bad? It's just because it's bland. Something we kind of seen before. It's not told in a very visual film language style, because there's just no really like a style to the film. It's like, I guess it is kind of like, it has this like orangey look to, because it's in Arizona. So it's kind of like try to give it like a Western feel, I guess. I mean, there's literally a scene that tries because it thinks like it's Sergio Leone or something. It's just bland. Something really new to it. There's like way better female-led movies out there, like Lady Bird, Mad Max Fury Road, Wonder Woman, the Hunger Games movies, and those are just to name a few. And it's just a very bland, predictable movie. And that's PG, because I would rather if it would be like PG-13 or a little edgier.
Lucky said the same for you and Gabby. Let's go, Tessa. I'm so sick of you! What are you talking about? Oh, like you don't know? You take over everything. You think you're so funny and the greatest person ever, but really, you're just totally annoying, and I'm not the only one that thinks so. Stop it! Right now! You say I'm acting different? Well, you know what? The old sage would never talk to someone like that. Come on, Dylan. We gotta get to rehearsal.
Again, what I said about riff tracks, this is really something that riff tracks should really, do a commentary on, because there's a lot of stuff you can poke fun at in this movie. And so there you go. It's just a very bland kids movie that I feel like could be done a lot better. So on to the next movie, Talking Cats. You've probably heard this movie before, and yes, it is pretty bad. This is a very cheap movie. I mean, it was made in 2 locations. I mean, like, one location I think is like the guy's summer house, and then one is like his rich house, because I don't know how much money he's made from making these movies, but they are really bad, and they're just so cheap. And it's like the story is it's like the single dad and his son, and like this mom and the single mom and his like 2 siblings, a daughter and a son, and they kind of mock each other, and then the son of the other dad has a girl that he tutors, and then he kind of likes her, and then the cat comes in, and it's like, it just makes no sense, and it's just very cheap to look at. I mean, the cat's kind of cute for someone like me who has a cat. It's a pretty cute cat, but it's very cheap. So on to the most underrated movie of 2013. The most underrated movie of 2013 is Star Trek Into Darkness. I kind of think it's very fun. It's not as good as the first Star Trek. I don't know about Star Trek Beyond. I haven't actually seen that since I saw it in the theater. I haven't seen it in a while, and I'm glad they're making a 4th one. And so I like Star Trek Into Darkness because I like it has like a social commentary on corruption, and like how on like kind of what starts war. And how I just like how the Federation, it goes a little corrupt, and I think they do kind of take a little bit from Skyfall and The Dark Knight, and I mean they do steal the idea that that the main the best Star Trek villain is Khan, and how they use the best Batman villain, the Joker, in The Dark Knight. But I really like Star Trek Into Darkness. It's a very fun, entertaining action movie. It's not as good as the first Star Trek, but I enjoy it after rewatching it. So on to 2014. Alright, the worst movie of 2014. It is The Giver. It is the worst adaptation of a science fiction novel since David Lynch's Dune. The problem with this movie is that the pacing is too long. The effects are just kind of bad. The lighting's bad, but I think like the acting at times is pretty good. But mostly from Jeff Bridges and the kid that plays Jonas, and the actress that plays Fiona. They do a pretty decent job, but like Meryl Streep and Katie Holmes suck. And the sad thing is that a book like The Giver should get a lot better treatment when there's better like science fiction. Directors like, what is it, Dennis Van Viel? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but the guy that directed Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, he would have made a decent movie. Stanley Kubrick, like Ridley Scott, people that have made like really deep science fiction movies could have made a great movie, even if like they didn't want to go like a drama and like people just like talking about emotions and stuff, then make it like maybe you could have went like a Minority Report route, like they could have got Steven Spielberg. I think he would have even made a decent movie. And it's just that this could have been, it's just this like an embarrassment when like it's up against other science fiction movies, not just like The Hunger Games, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Blade Runner, Minority Reports, like Snowpiercer, the Star Wars trilogy. It's just embarrassing when you just have it like up there with a bunch of great science fiction movies. And so yeah, it's the worst movie of 2014. So on to underrated movies. So for underrated movies of the
2014.
decade, I got to go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2014 and The Maze Runner. So Ninja Turtles 2014, I kind of thought it was like the best thing ever. That's when I didn't know good movies back then, but I really loved Ninja Turtles. It was just a fun, dumb action superhero film. I didn't get why people hate it, and I still get why people hate it. Is it like the CGI effects? I mean, because I think the CGI effects on the Turtles is still pretty good. And, oh look, Bella came back to see us. Bella, you can say hi to the audience. She was just chasing her tail. Bella. Okay, now she's taking a bath. Alright, so, but yeah, I think it's fine. I don't even think the Ninja Turtles actually do have enough screen time, in my opinion. So, yeah, there's Ninja Turtles. Maze Runner, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's a pretty decent sci-fi that has, like, kind of reminds me of, like, Lord of the Flies and, like, Hunger Games. This is basically like a combination of that, where like there's just people like they all live together and in the middle of a maze, and like they're being watched, and they're kind of like tested in a way. I think it's a really good movie. It's not like the best sci-fi movie ever, but it's very decent.
You owe me some money. I think somebody's calling. I gotta go. Just hanging out with the family, having ourselves